Yo, this is June the Kid, and you're listening to Vanguard.
June the Kid, thank you so much for being here today. How are you feeling?
Man, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so just jumping right into it, we heard The Vent Part 1, we heard Candy Paint, and we heard Yup. And
Yes,
those
sir.
are kind of an embodiment of how busy you were with singles this past year.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that even kind of leads into 2023 with Mud you just dropped
Yeah,
today,
it just dropped today.
Tell me about that track.
Mud was honestly, it just kind of came about really spur of the moment, naturally. Just me and Quasi were in the studio. We were just messing around. He was cooking up beats, and as soon as I heard it, I was just like, yo, we got to do something on this right now.
Mm-hmm.
I punched in the hook, started writing the verse right there, and then we laid it down. I think from the time we started working on it to the time it was on streaming services was like a week.
Okay.
We made it, and then within a week later it was out, so really quick. I don't like to think too much on tracks when I make them.
Right.
I like to just put them out.
No, I was just gonna ask about that. Do you like that idea of just letting that creative process be and release it, or do you like holding on to any particular tracks?
I definitely don't. I know
Okay.
I got a lot of artist homies who are like the exact opposite. They
Yeah,
hoard music.
yeah.
Like they got hundreds songs they're just sitting on. But like for me, I like to just make stuff and put it out because the more I start like listening and to older music I made and just having it play over and over and over in my head, the least I start liking it, or the less I start liking it.
Yeah.
That's just me personally.
No, definitely. It's an organic process. But yeah, you wouldn't believe some of the artists that have been in, and they'll just be like, oh yeah, I have like 250 songs in the vault.
Yeah, it's
Which is
crazy to me. I'm like,
yeah.
what you gonna do with them, bro?
Right.
Like, what's the point?
Exactly. Yeah. It's a lot to sift through. So I like that, and I know listeners also appreciate just anything they can get their hands on. So that's awesome. And if we rewind from kind of a lot of singles from 2022, and we look at Rhonda's Son that dropped in 2021.
Yeah.
That was kind of your idea of cementing yourself as an artist and having this project, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
With Rhonda's Son, when I was first that was the first body of work that I had ever put together.
Yep.
And then, especially with me being so new at the time, a lot of people were telling me like to don't go the project route. Especially when you're a new artist, you don't have a huge fan base or nothing like that. Just do the singles.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure that I put a body of work out immediately, just to kind of prove that, well, not just to everybody, but prove that I was taking it serious, and then I could really put together a body of work that was cohesive, you know, from front to back, that had a message in it, and not just a bunch of singles. And then after I did that, I started finding that like a lot of like the promoters and people around in the local scenes started taking me more seriously immediately.
Yeah.
Because when you put out a body of work versus singles, I just feel like people look at it a different way. And then when you can go listen to it and learn more about the artist, it kind of sticks with people longer than just random singles here and there.
No, totally. There's like this sense of legitimacy that comes with that, and keeping that in mind, and that like having this cohesiveness and message behind Rhonda's Son. Was this an exciting thing to drop, or was it very nerve-wracking? Because you at times you're talking about fairly vulnerable things, whether it's your mental state, loss, family. Tell me about that.
For me, I had fun when I was making it,
Mm-hmm.
but when I was getting ready to put it out, I was really nervous. Just because it was like, one, like you said, there's a lot of vulnerable stuff on there, or just personal stuff that I put into the music that I didn't necessarily know how people would accept it or receive it. But then on top of that, it's like, I remember going into it, putting all that work in, and being like, man, what if I put this out and nobody hears it? Like, I don't know if I'd be able to take that, or if I put it out and people just don't like it.
Yeah.
But when I did put it out, I had the release party at Urban Lights, and I had people there to be able to see their genuine, just instant reactions to the music like that was priceless for me, and it made it worth it.
Yeah, and what was kind of like, so you had that in-person genuine reaction. Were there other reactions that kind of caught your eye through releasing this? Was it?
For sure. When I put out Rhonda's Son, I started getting reached out to from all types of different artists and promoters in the scene. People who I didn't even know I was on their radar. You know what I mean? Because I feel like it kind of works that way here a lot, where people will be paying attention to what you do, but they won't necessarily like interact with you.
Yeah.
So you won't know until you put out a certain piece of work, and then you run into that person and they're like, yo, no, I heard Rhonda's Son. I really liked it. I like this song and this song. So for me, it was definitely worthwhile to do that. And then on top of that, I was the part about putting Rhonda's Son out when I first started that made me the most nervous was it was just like I was such a new artist at the time, and where was I going with this? Oh, I was a new artist at the time. I done completely lost my train of thought. What the hell are we talking about?
So you were nervous about releasing Rhonda's song?
Yeah. The part that made me nervous was I've completely lost my train of thought. Ask me a question one more time.
Yeah. So I think we were just talking about just the vulnerability behind Rhonda's son, and you were getting kind of this attention from people you didn't even know.
Yeah.
And then was there anything before that was nerve-wracking, I guess, is kind of where we're going back to.
Yeah. So with it being like the first pieces of music that I was making and putting out, I was trying to find like an identity for myself as an artist.
Yeah.
At the time, because I didn't really know what direction I wanted to go in. Like I had a lot of different types of music that I like to make. At the time, I was kind of known for doing like boom bap stuff because the only song I had out was Nimbus. So one of my goals when I was going into the project was to try to put like as many different sounds I could fit into that small 6 songs. And that was a part that made me nervous because I knew people liked the boom bap stuff because I had already did Nimbus, but I didn't know if people would necessarily like songs like Remember and Southside June, for example.
Sure.
So to see people actually like that stuff and gravitated towards it made me feel a lot more secure as an artist.
Yeah, I'm sure that's got to build your confidence up too.
Yeah.
How do you go about testing out those sounds when you know there's stuff you can go back to, but not necessarily taking that?
Honestly, I got a small circle of homies that I value their opinions a lot because like they've seen me making music from like when I was first starting out to where I am now. So immediately, like when I make a new song, I send it off to them first, and then I get their opinion. And like I feel like if they like it, I got a good chance of other people liking it because they're not gonna tell me what I want to hear. You know what I mean? If something is trash, they're gonna tell me it's trash.
Yeah, and I feel like that's so important to have. And they know you, knowing your sound. They probably know this could use a little bit more of something. They probably know the limits you can go to.
Yeah,
which is nice to have. And speaking of that, I'm sure some of those people you're sending the music to are Basement Gang, right?
Yeah.
And so tell me about Basement Gang and kind of the idea of working solo versus in a group like that.
So Basement Gang, the start of it, the original Basement Gang was something that me and my homie Sekou and then the homie Quasi, we always kind of just called ourselves that. When we first started making music, it was at my homie Clip's house. That was like the kicking spot for our whole friend group. We would all link up over there. We drank, listen to music, party, whatever. In his basement, he was an artist, so he like graffitied and painted and did art all over all the walls in there. And so when you look around, like it's a crazy environment to be in. And we started recording music there, just messing around for the first time. So for there, we just, it was just like, let's be Basement Gang. But then when we actually started getting into the music and coming out as that and then performing together, it kind of cemented it, and that's how we started being known around the scene. Yeah. The dynamics of working individually and in a group, I mean, they're not too much different. I would say when you're working by yourself, you have 100% creative control of everything. So whatever idea you have, you can kind of just go in that direction. When you're with a group, though, you still have that creativity, but a lot of it is about complimenting each other.
Okay.
And, filling in like, Righteous might have this area where he's really good at, and he's got this. Let me do this in another lane that'll bring it all together and make it sound cohesive for all of us. So that's what I feel like the biggest difference is. I enjoy them both, though. Yeah. When I first started making music, I wanted to make sure that I put out solo work first, though, just because I wanted to be able to stand on my own as an artist outside of just the group.
Is there ever a fear that your verse might not stand up to some of the others within the group, or is it pretty even keeled and you guys are pushing each other? Is it that competition, or is it more just you guys are doing it and they come together?
It's like a healthy, friendly competition, but it's like the good type of worried. You know what I mean? Where Sekou and Righteous are really dope in their own right from a lyrical standpoint and just writing. So like being around them and like seeing them work on their stuff and then be working on our stuff, I just honestly feel like it makes us all better because it pushes us all to put out the best verse we can on whatever song we're working on. So for me, I take it as a blessing, and I really enjoy being in a group with other dope people because I feel like it just brings the best out of me.
Yeah, for sure. And I've seen you talk about this idea of the double life of an artist. Yeah. Walk me through that and kind of like how weird it is to go maybe one day from performing, like you were saying, in front of 120 people and then maybe heading to work the next day. It's
It's really weird. It took a while for me to get used to. I don't know if you ever seen the show Atlanta.
Yeah,
That's honestly what it feels like. Like on a day to day. Like it's like exactly what you said. I'll have a night where like I'm on stage performing, going crazy for like this huge crowd of people.
Yep.
And then the next day I'm going back to work like none of that ever happened.
Yeah.
Like, it is funny because like for the longest, when at my job, nobody knew I made music because like my family they didn't even know I made music. I tried to keep it a secret for as long as I could.
Really? Okay.
Until I felt like I really had something. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, everybody makes music. I didn't want to be like the millionth guy who's like, I rap. But when I started seeing that like I actually had a fan base of people who liked me and people who booked me, that's when I started kind of keying in everybody else in my life.
Yeah, now you guys can come to shows.
Yeah, I remember going to work. And I'm at work, I'm at my desk just doing my thing. And I hear one of my songs, I hear Nimbus playing. So immediately I'm like reaching for my phone, like, my Bluetooth, because I had headphones in, like maybe my Bluetooth turned on. Yeah. And I realized somebody else was listening to it. And I'm like,
no
damn, they
way.
found out.
They're
They
like,
finally found out. The jig is up
funny.
now.
Yeah.
From there, it was surprisingly though, like all of my coworkers actually liked the music.
Okay.
So it went over really well for me, and it made it easier for me to feel comfortable with bringing these two different lives together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that's super funny though. I understand like maybe holding off on the coworkers, but the family, did they not know until like Rhonda's son?
They didn't know
out?
until Rhonda's son came out.
Really?
I told like my sister and my parents that I made music like the day before the release show.
Wow.
Because I wanted it to be. When I told them I made music, I wanted it to make sense.
And then
you know
it's
what I mean?
Here you go, this is what I can do.
I have something to show for it. And then when I was my sister actually came to the release show. And that was the first time her ever seeing me make music or hearing anything. Yeah. And when she saw the people there, she was amazed. She was just like, wow. Her thing was like, if you got talent and you got people who like you, like it's crazy that you would keep something like that under wraps. Mm-hmm. But for me, I feel like it was the best because I felt like I didn't necessarily have the confidence yet to be able to stand on the music I was making until then.
Gotcha. And so you speak about like confidence, and I think we can kind of see like Jordan the person and then June the kid. Right. Is there any type of like persona you have to take on in order to get kind of stage presence handled, or has it just been a confidence over time that has come?
When I first started rapping, my way of like almost psyching myself out to like stop thinking about the like, I'm Jordan, but I rap it now. Like to like when I was rapping, I would envision myself as being like another person.
So
like, I was like playing it, not necessarily playing a character, because the content in the music is just authentically me in my life.
Right, exactly.
But I had to think of it as a lens like this isn't me right now. Like it's almost like I'm wrestling, like I'm in kayfabe. I'm under character right now. So that was my way of being able to rap and get more comfortable in the studio and stuff. Okay. But as far as like getting confidence in real life in front of people, that just came from going to Urban Lights at the open mics that they used to throw. Yeah. I went there and my friend Vlad was the one hosting it. So automatically I already knew he was going to put me in a good position to like, he wouldn't set me up for failure, you know what I mean? Like he wouldn't tell me to come here and perform in front of all these people if he didn't believe it. Yep. And knowing that he's been there and he's seen all these people in the scene, that made me more comfortable to be like, if he genuinely believes I could do this and he's heard all these other rappers, then like, who am I to get in my own way with that? You know what I mean?
100%. And I think that is kind of the case sometimes. It's just like you can be your own worst enemy. And once you can get over that, a lot of good things start happening. And so that consistency of maybe going to the open mics, putting music out and performing, you kind of start, I know you've talked about this as well, you start to develop more of a fan base than a friend base. Yeah. Tell me about any instances that came up where you're like, okay, these are actually fans. Like I see myself as an artist this way.
I remember I had people, reaching out and telling me they like my music and obviously streaming it and like sharing it, DMing me. But the moment that made me really realize like, yo, people really resonate with us and like believe in us as artists was we had a show at the Square on Chicago and 38th in Minneapolis. And I had a fan that I talked to after the show who was telling me like, yo, I drove from like an hour and a half away here just to see you guys perform because I saw you guys once at like an open mic like a year ago. It was amazing. And when he told me that, it really made me take a step back. Like, you really like believe like in us, and, like me as an artist. Like that's a different level of support. That's something that like most people wouldn't do unless it was like a famous artist that they.
No,
like,
right?
You know what I mean?
Like yeah, some family members might not. Even do
like I know like friends who wouldn't do something like that. So it was like for a random person who's never met me, doesn't know me at all, who only knows me from music to do that. That really made me feel like I had something with it, and at that point, it was undeniable.
Yeah, so do things like that, obviously, they build your confidence as an artist. Do they also make you want to be like, oh, if I have at least one person that is willing to do this, let me go to the studio tomorrow and work as hard as I can?
Exactly. That's exactly what it did. Once I found out that, like, seeing it in real life and having it be tangible and actually speaking to someone and having them be like, no, like, I genuinely love your music this much. Like, I wanted to do it. And then, like, he told me, like, it was worth it for sure. Like,
and then afterwards being like, yeah, no, I'm glad I did this.
Yeah, that made me, that really put a fire under me to be like, let's get in the studio and really I was already taking it serious, of course, but really putting the burner on to churn out as much music as I could and try to honestly just elevate and make everything better than what I was doing before.
Yeah. So I see that, like, that story as kind of a high of performing. And I know being an artist, that's one of, if not your favorite part, is performing.
For sure.
Give me kind of like the best moments of you in your performances, like any instances that stick out to you.
Yeah. I'll never forget this, but our first show, so the first show that we did that wasn't an open mic, that was an actual show that we were booked on, was we had a Halloween showcase in 2021 at Creative Minneapolis.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And there was a ton of artists on there, people who've been doing this for a long time, and like, so it was a little bit intimidating because I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get on it. It was me and Sekou. I remember being like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get on this stage and, you know, fit in and really hold my own with all these people. But when we were rapping the music, and like, it was like everybody in the room knew the lyrics and they were singing it. And to me, like, that blew my mind because I was like, one, we had only been making music seriously and putting it out for like 6 months at this point. And then it was like, to see people really resonate with me in that way, to where like at a certain point, like, I don't even have to rap the song because they know the lyrics. That really, that was a different feeling. That was something that like I genuinely feel like I'll never forget that. Yeah. And that was one of the moments that made me be like, all right, if we can do this here with this small group of like 60, 70 people, imagine if we can get this to like thousands of people. You know what I mean?
And having that so early on, still in 2021, that's
exactly. Yeah. Because that was the thing that really put it in perspective with me, because I'm like, we've only been doing this for 6 months, and we have people gravitating to the music like this. Imagine when it's like year 3, you know what I mean?
Right. And speaking of that, kind of, so relatively new artist, kind of cementing yourself in 2021 with projects and performances like that. Looking ahead, what can we expect from June the Kid? What's on your radar?
So right now, right around the corner, I got another solo project coming to follow up Ron the Sun. It's called I've Been Better.
Okay.
That I'm wrapping up the last few tracks, and that'll be coming here really soon. After that, the goal is just to keep the steam on what we were doing in 2022, collabing as much as I can with people in the scene, you know, sharing fan bases, growing organically that way. But then I want to start traveling outside of Minnesota.
Sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I've performed a lot. I've done like over like 15 shows in 2022. And now I feel like the next step for me and Basement Gang is to broaden our horizons and get into other cities and other states, so we can try to get. If I feel like if I can get the type of fan base and support that I have here, you know, in like a few other states, then at that point that'll take us to the next level. And then of course getting visual shot and stuff like that.
For sure. Yeah, no, that growth is very key. And so I've Been Better. I just want to focus on that for a little bit. If there's anything you can say about that project, I feel like I saw maybe in a tweet, honestly, like maybe early 2022, you were thinking of coming different on this project versus Rhonda's Son. Is that the case, or is it still kind of are you building off of that project, or is it completely different?
Yes and no. It's like, so I wanted to build off of Rhonda's Son, but a big focus for me with I've Been Better is to showcase the growth. I feel like I've had a lot of growth as an artist. I've gotten a lot more comfortable laying tracks in the studio, and I feel like I've had a solid amount of progression just musically. And so that's the big thing for me. A lot of the same values and like attributes that people like from Rhonda's Son are still going to be present in I've Been Better, but the best way I can describe it without like spoiling too much stuff is that's the perfect word. It's just progression. I feel like it's a similar sound or a similar idea or vibe and feel that you had on Rhonda's Son, but it's just going to the next level. And then obviously I'm still incorporating other things too that weren't on Rhonda's Son.
Okay, cool. So yeah, again, building off and progressing too, and we can see that sometime within this year.
Yeah, for sure. Sometime very soon, actually.
Oh,
like
okay.
The next, I don't even want to say.
Yeah.
It
happens sometimes where they're like, I guess I'll say the date or whatever.
Right.
It is,
as soon as you say it, then everybody holds you to that.
Yeah.
It's coming very, very soon.
Okay.
I don't want to put a date on it, but way sooner than later.
Okay. That's very exciting to see. Anything else kind of keen on your radar in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, outside of Ron the Sun, traveling, working with my peers, getting videos shot, that's the big thick and thin of it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, merch as well. Merch,
cool.
I'm working on getting that finalized right now for Basement Gang merch. I'm really excited for that. We were able to work with a really dope artist here who personally drew up the design for us.
Cool.
So I'm excited for people to see that when it comes to out.
I feel like I see you in a lot of graphic tees. So if there's maybe a graphic tee coming,
if I can get it, it's very like almost like rock band tee inspired.
Oh, cool.
It's
That's
like
cool.
the theme of it, if I could describe it.
Very cool. Well, June the Kid, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything you would like to leave off with today? Some words of wisdom, maybe? Anything you can offer?
Words of wisdom. I'm gonna just say this, man. For anybody listening, I feel like everybody in life has that one thing that they're passionate about and they want to do, and they feel like they could do it, but for whatever reason they don't do it, whether or not they're second guessing themselves or they feel like they have other obstacles or they won't be accepting it. But I urge you, if you have anything in life that you're passionate about, to chase that, because you never know if you put yourself out there in front of people, the type of response that you will get and the heights that you can get to it. I never thought I'd be doing. I'm not even gonna lie. I never thought I'd be doing this rap. Like it's still crazy to me when I talk to like my friends when I was younger and I tell them I rap and then I show them that I rap, like what's actually going on.
Mm-hmm.
They're amazed by it. So, like I said, if you got anything that you want to do and you're passionate about, chase that, because you got forever. You got forever to do the normal thing. You know what I mean? But you got a short amount of time right now when you're younger to really chase the dream and try to do what you want to do as opposed to what you have to do.
Couldn't agree more, and I always love seeing things come full circle like that, so I appreciate you being here today.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, awesome.